morning. Another edition of Echo Edge coverage at Fairgrounds. We are back. No race. The card yesterday was actually really good. It was a bummer that that card got canceled. They were off the turf yesterday. They will be off the turf again today. Yesterday they had a water main break, so that was kind of a bummer. And I think that card's okay today. I'll cover a little bit and then we're going to jump off. I think I played the pick 5 here. In race 2, you have to make an opinion. In race 1, I thought this was a tough race to kick off the card. A lot can win here. I'm not on the 7 Malibu Street. I mean, I'm using, but 0 for 8 at the distance. Others can win here, and it's an off the turf event. I'm spreading there. In the single, you're either singling a race 2 or you're singling a race 5, in my opinion. I'm going to try to beat the 2 in race 5, but that's your other single. I think, everybody, it's just the speed in this race. And I think that's what can take this race. It's off a long layoff for Lynch. And as we talked about, there's no workout video to be found. So they're kind of disappointing, but you're going to have to make decisions. I think can take him all the way as a big pace figure. On the race sim, you can see he takes him a long way. Joe Sharp off the layoff of the 2, and Stidham got the 3. They're both, question marks here. So I'm singling the 5. That's where my strongest opinion came into race 3. I also, I like a price here in Tahoe Run, and then I think Half Brother is actually the horse to sit the trip. I think Golden Bandit and Liar's Poker, this horse came off the turf. I think that they go too fast up front, and I think the 5 or 1 sit the trip. So I like the daily double as well, the 2 into the 3rd race. And that's kind of how I saw it early. I think that this is a tough race. I do think it's between the 1, 2, 4. And then, we'll talk about this race. This is I like the 6, and I think the 4 is an interesting play, even though they're off the turf. But the 2 could be the speed of the speed. So as I mentioned, that's your other single if you don't want to single the 5 in race 2, and you could go 3 deep in race 2 and then single the 2 here. But I like the 6 Carpice. I think that this horse might sit a good trip getting over the dirt track. And there's just question marks on the 2. This horse might stop with Paco, but it might take him a long way. When you look at I'm Wide Awake, it's coming from much tougher, but burn money in 3 of those 4 races is my concern. But the speed on the Fairgrounds dirt might just be gone. But, so single in race 2, the other option would be singling there in race 5 to the 2 horse. But, and then, again, not a big strong opinion. And then, on the lay half of the card, I don't play a lot of horizontals without singling, but I was pretty narrow in these races. I think here you could have a single in the 1, but I do like the 6 with J-Lo if you have a morning line angle. I also like the 1-6 Exacta here. I think can run on. The 8 horse can't break. It continually stands in the gate. And then the 7, I think, might need the lead. And so I think the 6, the horse stretching out, a little central for Sam David, the GSR goes up 8 points. This horse, I think, can really improve second time out. Was in the 11 post here, was green, just kind of a paid workout, to be honest. That was on opening day at Fairgrounds. But I think on the stretch out could be huge here for the 6 horse. But the 1 looks really tough. And I think the 7 need the lead, and the 8 just doesn't break. Von Erich, I mean, you'll see here, couldn't leave the gate. Here, kind of rushed up and ran okay when they added blinkers, and then here stood in the gate. So, I think that horse has problems, and I'm going to try, it looks like a 1-6 to me, in the Exacta. And again, the 1 could be a single, but 2 deep there. Kenmore West could be tough here. But I also think Loudermilk could be dangerous up front. But the 2 might sit the trip. And then, the last race I thought was tough. But I think French Knight for Kenny McPeak. You'll see he's the top win percent, but not in the picks. Could sit a really good trip in this race. I think the Paco sends on election night. I know this horse doesn't have a high pace number, but I think that he's going to send from out here. And if I remember right, first time Lasix, I think he's going to have to be forwardly placed and aggressive. I don't trust Halo Music on the front end. And so I think this pace comes back in either the 6 for Joe Sharp and Jose, dangerous duo last meet, sit the trip, or I think French Knight, the 4 for Kenny McPeak is also a nice price here and might have the speed coming back and just sit the trip. So, playing it cheap, and then I spread in the last. I Voodoo Lady could be the goods at 2 to 5. That's another potential single. So, nothing I really love today. Those few angles. But playing just a couple cheap horizontals if you want some action, essentially, and pay if this hits, and you're not gonna lose money or anything, but not a huge investment. And then if you just joined us, that was the early pick 5. I do like the daily double here, the 5 into the 1-5. That was a strong opinion. I talked about the exact in race 6, so maybe a few plays. All right, y'all. Off to coach basketball. Have a great weekend. We'll be back tomorrow. Maybe they'll be on the turf tomorrow. They got a lot of rain, but it might be done with, so that's good. And if not, it's supposed to be nice next week. All right, y'all. Chat soon. Have a good week.